Attention everybody, the views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or nonprofits. So now, without any further ado, it's the man with the plan to put gold in your hand, Tony Hammock.
Good morning, everybody out there in Acts Media Land. Thank you for tuning in. We have an interesting show this morning. We're living in interesting times. And we'll talk about some of those here in a moment and so forth. Hopefully everybody out there is safe under these new standards we need to live with. And it's interesting getting out and about. This morning I was driving over here and I think I saw two cars, which of course they were still awful drivers, but I was laughing because this one lady almost hit me and I was like, really? I'm the only other car on the street. And she pulled out right in front. Anyway, enough about that. But it looks like we're going to have a gorgeous day for those of you that are here in Southwest Missouri. For those of you that aren't, you should be, because it is gorgeous. And although I did read that as far as the COVID-19, I think Missouri is projected to peak in May. And I think Kansas, for some reason, the article I was reading was pinned it down to a day. I want to say it was like April 17th is where it's going to peak. So, we're not out of the woods yet. It may get worse before it gets better. And, just stay tuned and stuff like that. One of my guys I follow on Twitter is Tim Ferriss. And, he's the guy that wrote the 4-Hour Work Week, and he's a pretty talented guy and stuff, but he tweeted the other day that if you're having trouble getting food or anything, go to gethelp. It was either .gov or .org. Gethelp.org or that must be what it is. Gethelp.org. Are you typing it in?
I'm researching it now.
Oh, here we go. Oh, I could do it myself right here. So, and I looked at it, once I saw it, and
yeah. Are you on our internet or your own?
My own.
Ah, okay. We got new internet, that's why.
Oh, okay. So which one worked? .org or
Find patient assistance program, including results for gethelp.org.
There we go, gethelp.org. I went in and I plugged in my zip code, and of course it comes up Greene County, and I mean there was like, I don't know, was it 1,400 things in there that I can get help from? And I mean, some of them, if you're lacking food and stuff, they've got a lot of places in the area that have free meals and things like that. So by all means, I would suggest doing that. But anyway, let's jump into a couple things. One is, as you well know, for those that watch all the time, the stewardship course that we're doing. Let me find it here real quick. There we go. And I think this week we are on, I want to say chapter 6. Let's see here. No, it must be 7. We're making progress because there's only 12 in this one. There we go. Okay. So let me read this, and then we can kind of talk about it a little bit. And are they able to see you on the screen?
No.
Oh, okay. Reverend Matt Pearson is to my left across the table here. I guess congratulations.
Stage left.
I guess congratulations are in order.
For what?
For the new title.
Oh, that's not a new title.
Oh, I didn't know that was an old title.
I've been ordained. This will be year number 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, year number 2. Now they can see me.
Okay.
I'm going to zoom back into you now, though.
Well, excuse me. This one's called Being Choked by Wealth. And I think this is appropriate since our show is all about alternative assets and things like that. Business people are especially susceptible to a trap in their spiritual lives, one to which others may not be so susceptible. That trap is wealth. Scripture tells us that if we are having our basic needs met for food and clothing, we are considered to have riches. Jesus cautioned us against living a lifestyle that required more than our basic necessities. However, it is clear that Jesus was not against wealth, but against a dependence on wealth. Jesus continually taught that a dependence on anything other than God was evil. Whenever Jesus determined that money was an issue for an individual, he addressed it and found that an individual could not let go. This was true for the rich young ruler. When talking about what he must do to inherit the kingdom, Jesus told him to do the one thing that would be the most difficult, to give away his wealth and follow him. Jesus was not saying this was what every person must do, only the rich young ruler, because Jesus knew this was his greatest stumbling block. For others of us, it could be something else Jesus would ask us to give up. In the parable of the sower, in which he describes 4 types of people, Jesus also gave us another example of the problem money creates for any follower of Jesus. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell in rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. The one who received the seed that fell among the thorns is the man who hears the word. But the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. Much like the frog in the boiling pot, if we are not careful, we gradually begin to acquire and walk the treadmill of material gain. Those around us begin to expect more and more. Soon we begin expanding our lifestyle. Before we know it, we're worrying about how to take care of what we acquire. Our emphasis becomes what we own versus our relationship with Jesus and his kingdom. One day I woke up and realized I had a cold heart towards God. Apathy toward the things of God became apparent. I was still going through the motions of service toward God, but with no power. We wake up to realize Christ is no longer Lord of our lives, much less of our money. The greater independence money gives us, the less dependence on God we need. Christ talked much about money in the kingdom because he knew how much of a problem it was. This is why we have so few who are bearing 100, 60, or 30 times what is sown. Do you have the same hunger for God that you once had? Has financial blessing had an adverse effect on your passion for Jesus Christ? Ask him today if your heart has grown cold as a result of financial blessing. Ask him to keep you hungering for more of his presence in your life. And that is a really interesting devotional. This was lesson 7 in this course. And just, I think, very, very powerful. I know that if I encountered Jesus and he wanted me to walk away from everything, knowing what I know now, I would do it, but I would have that moment, or in my past, I would have had that moment where I would have, thought about it for a second and stuff. And, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show, but I'll just kind of share this little thing that happened way back in my past. I was a college student back in 1976 and 77. Yes, it's going way back. I know. Some of you weren't born then, but as my kids say, I guess I'm old as dirt now or something. But anyway, I was going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo out in California. And there was a bus that would transport us from the campus to the housing that I was using, student housing. And, we were all sitting there, and it was kind of a, warm afternoon, and, this what we thought was a crazy guy. This crazy guy stands up across the student union, and he just starts hollering and carrying on, and, all kinds of stuff he's saying. And for the most part, I ignored him because, back in that day and age, there was a lot of people doing that stuff. But at one point, he says, okay, so who here is a Christian? And, nobody raised their hand. Nobody waved him down. Nobody got up and went over and, said anything. They just was trying to avoid this guy and stuff. And so the bus came, and, I got on the bus, and we weren't even all the way to the student housing place, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, wait a cotton picking second. You know what? That's probably the way it was back then in Jesus' time, and probably the way it'll be again sometime. Where, just for that split second, I didn't jump up and say, yes, I'm a Christian, And I vowed to myself at that point I would never let that happen again. I mean, I don't care if the person is, is really crazy. I mean, if somebody asks that, I'm going to, shoot my arm up and stuff. So the same goes through with this lesson today as far as, being able to walk away from your material goods and stuff. And I think it's a good lesson. We've got 4 more, I guess. Let me see. If we just did 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we've got 5 more of that particular stewardship course. And hopefully you like the stewardship course. I kind of get a kick out of it just because, it's important. I mean, there's a lot of business people in the ministry, and, you got to always think about the bottom line and making a profit and all those kinds of things and stuff. And sometimes it's easy. It's kind of a gray area there, if you go too far and stuff. Anyway, enough of me rambling about that. Let's get into some other interesting things. Bitcoin, as we talk, is $6,232.37. That's for 1 Bitcoin. And remember, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy partials. Like if you've got $100, you could buy $100 of a Bitcoin and stuff. And hold that thought too, because I got an article I'm going to go over here in just a second. So as far as the prices, gold as of 9/12 this morning is at $1,582.70 an ounce. These are the precious metals that we like to track, and so these are all by ounces, the prices I'll share with you. Silver is $13.97. Platinum is $724. Palladium is $2,333. Rhodium is $10,000. So a lot of activity in the precious metals. Let's look at the base metals, and these prices are based on the pound. So copper is $2.15 a pound. Nickel is $5, $5.01 to be exact. Aluminum is 66 cents. Zinc is 83 cents. Lead is 76 cents. And uranium is up to 27.40. I got to tell you, there's a lot of folks I read and follow that think uranium might be a place to pay attention to this year. Crude oil, if you can believe this, I don't know in my lifetime if I've ever seen it this low. Crude oil is $20.27 a barrel. Hopefully that starts to show up on at the pump. I noticed yesterday I went by a station I usually stop and get gas at, and I want to say it was $1.65 a gallon, which is pretty good. But that's interesting that crude oil is down to $20.27. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, as we speak, is down 681 points, and it currently is at 21,236. And, there's just been a lot of volatility so far this year. And, we've talked before about making volatility your friend. That's there's always going to be volatility, whether it's during this pandemic that we're in now or just normal times. That's just the nature of things and stuff. And I learned a long time ago, okay, so you can't avoid volatility, so let's make it our friend. And my point is that it's important to have a systematic approach to whatever you're doing. If you're trying to buy Bitcoin, if you're trying to buy gold or silver, or you got a 401k at the office, or you're trying to buy a mutual fund, whatever it is, you want to take a systematic approach so you remove as much emotion as you can, because I got to tell you, fear and greed will make you make interesting choices sometimes. And I know that sounds like, oh no, not me, that won't ever happen to me. Bye Jason. See ya. Drive careful. But what are you going to do when your favorite fund is down to an all-time low and you've got money in it, let's say you've got a lot of money for you, and you're sitting there going, okay, do I hang on and have faith that this guy's going to turn it around, or do I sell? And I got to tell you that there's been moments in my life where I've had some choices like that, and it's a tough one because you've got to decide, what am I going to do? And that's why the systematic approach makes so much sense, is that
it's like gambling almost.
a little bit. Yep. But that next paycheck, boom, 3% is going over to the 401k. If the market's down, it's buying more shares. Next paycheck, 3% from your check goes over to the 401k. Now the market's at an all-time high. Well, guess what? You're buying fewer shares, but your average cost should always be less than your average price. So, it's just a neat strategy to employ, and you can do that with a lot of things in your world. Let me get my glasses on for this next part. I found an article this morning that kind of summarizes the first quarter, which just dawned on me. It's April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
You don't have an April Fool's for us?
No, I don't think. Now's not the time for April Fools.
No. My wife last night when we talked about it, she goes like, yeah, this is hopefully an April Fool's gag and it'll go away tomorrow.
If someone came on the news and said April Fools, I would be so mad.
Tell me about it. So anyway, here's an article that came out this morning. This was on CNBC, and it's titled, Here's How Much Bitcoin Beat the Dow and S&P 500 in the First Quarter. So key points. Bitcoin fell over 10% in the first quarter of 2020, posting smaller declines than major U.S. stock indices. The Dow secured its worst The Dow secured its worst first quarter performance ever, losing more than 23% of its value in the first 3 months of the year. Meanwhile, gold was up about 4% as investors fled to safer assets. Now, what have we been talking about on this show? I mean, I hate to be one of those guys that says, I told you so. But, it's just the nature of these different vehicles. I mean, if the market's got some things that are making it scary, people will flood to the safer alternatives. Gold's one of those. It's perceived to be safer. And so if you get into that supply and demand equation we've talked about before, the extra demand is going to drive the price up, right? I mean, that's just the way things work. So gold's up 4, the Dow was down 23, Bitcoin was down 10. Bitcoin has fallen less than major U.S. equity indices in the first quarter, but still hasn't proven it can act as a safe haven in times of market turmoil. The cryptocurrency fell over 10% in the first 3 months of the year. However, the Dow secured its worst first quarter performance ever, losing more than 20% of its value in the first quarter of 2020. The S&P 500 fell 20% in the first 3 months of the year, its worst first quarter ever and its biggest quarterly loss since 2008. And the NASDAQ, which is all the over-the-counter stocks, fell more than 14% in the first quarter. Meanwhile, gold rose about 4% in the first quarter. Financial markets have had a volatile 3 months as the coronavirus outbreak turned into a pandemic. Hundreds of thousands of people have been infected around the world, leading to businesses shutting down, major travel restrictions, and people staying home. The economic impact expected to be severe, and that has led to a huge sell-off in stocks despite monetary policy action from central banks and fiscal stimulus from the governments around the world. Cryptocurrencies saw huge volatility in the first quarter. On March 8th, the whole market sold off following a plunge in oil prices. Then on March 12th, cryptocurrencies saw $93.5 billion wiped off their value in 24 hours and a 48% crash in the price of Bitcoin. So remember, we've never on this show said jump into Bitcoin. I mean, there's been a few times where I've said if you're an aggressive investor, I mean, you might want to think about putting 1% into Bitcoin or cryptos and stuff. But, I mean, that's all I would do. I mean, there are still a lot of unknowns and stuff. Over the past few years, Bitcoin has been likened to digital gold and has been seen by some as a safe haven asset to invest in when markets are under pressure. But it hasn't necessarily played out that way, and even though it has fallen less than major stock indices. Those inside the cryptocurrency industry, however, feel that this could be starting to shift. Bitcoin is still relatively a smaller asset class that is increasingly uncorrelated to traditional assets, and this is in the process of being established as we speak. This is why I believe the current market environment, it's the author, when it says I, is a big test for Bitcoin, and given how young the asset class is, it has actually held up quite well. So anyway, interesting information there. And let's talk about that for a second. You know, if you're in stocks and you're hearing those prices, you know, and we just talked about fear and greed, you know, some of the best investors ever, Warren Buffett up there in Omaha, and Warren studied under a guy named Benjamin Graham, who, you know, is deceased, but Benjamin Graham was kind of the father of value investing and so forth. He was a brilliant guy, and apparently Warren, when he was young, you know, found him and basically pleaded to, you know, be an intern with him and just, you know, learn as much as he could. And he obviously did a good job at that and stuff. But the reason I bring those two up is there's basically quotes from both of them that when you're picking a stock, you want to pick one, you know, based on your different things you're looking at and so forth and your research and everything. But you want to pick one that even if it went to zero, you would like. You're willing to stay at zero while you own those shares until things turn around. So if you have stocks like that, you might consider that. You might check out Warren Buffett, research him on the internet, and you could probably plug in that quote and you'll find exactly the article where he said that. So for example, let's just take Walmart, for example. I'm not, you know, this is just an example. But let's say if you're one of the folks that have a lot of
sponsor.
Right. You know, a lot of shares, and, you know, their price goes lower than you're comfortable with. You know, if you've picked it for the right reasons or, you know, whatever, you know, hang on to it. I mean, if you're okay with it going down and stuff, I mean, you know, it's not one of those things where you have to follow the herd. And that's kind of the main thing I guess I would throw out there is that, you know, it's okay to be a contrarian. If everybody else in the world is selling Walmart in this example, why not buy some, you know? And that's the other thing. I mean, you know, if you've got something that you just paid, you know, $100 a share for, excuse me, and it's now 50, you know what? If you liked it at 100, you're going to love it at 50. If you've done the right research, if you've got the right fundamentals in there, that you made the decision to acquire it in the first place, it's a sale. It's gone down in price. Go ahead and double down, they call it. And that way, if you've got 100 shares now at 50, you got 200 shares at 150, you know, total. So basically, your average cost is 75. And anyway, we're not here to talk about stocks that much. It's just more or less the philosophy. It's more or less, you know, kind of looking at what's going on in our world and stuff, and, you know, trying to not get caught up in the effect it has on our minds. So I'll be curious to see how we do. You know, it's funny how President Trump has kind of turned his tune from being like, oh, it's no big deal, to where I guess last night he was saying that, you know, we could see 100 to 200,000 people pass away in the next month. So, you know, I mean, our prayers go out, you know, not only to the folks that have passed and for their families, but, you know, needless to say, for the folks that are suffering from the virus, and then, you know, for the rest of us that thankfully have not gotten it, and so forth. It was kind of interesting. Monday morning, in about a 15-minute stretch, I had 2 phone calls back to back that people in my life has been affected by this. I mean, I was trying to reach out to a friend of mine down in Houston, Texas. In fact, it's a gentleman that we have had on this show before as a guest speaker, Tony Hubbard with 7K Metals. And I've been trying to reach Tony for a while. on a couple of different things. And so Monday morning I called again. I got his voicemail. And this is very much unlike Tony Hubbard, to not pick up or return a call and stuff. So I even on my voicemail said something like, I'm getting a complex here. I mean, I'm not getting you. You're not calling me back. I hope you're okay. And about 15 minutes later, he called me, and he had literally been just discharged Sunday from the hospital, and he had it and had survived. So there are people that survive it. Now, Tony's up in age. I mean, he's probably mid to late 60s, I would think. I could be wrong on that, but my point is that he was able to survive. He's going to be quarantined at home and working on getting stronger and those kinds of things and stuff. But and then the very next call I made, I was trying to reach out to our appliance guy, and that's a whole story in itself. But his greeting on his voicemail was like, "Hey, we've just had an unexpected event happen, and we are under quarantine for 14 days." And so it's out there. It's not fake news, and which amazes me because we got this thing in Springfield now where unless you're essential, you're supposed to be staying home, unless you're going out to get something essential, like food or something like that.
That's been difficult.
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut in.
No, you're good.
So one of the things with me is I used to feel bad if I stayed home all day and stayed, lazing around the house all day. And now it's hard to get used to the fact that that's the new norm for a while.
I know.
So.
And then, with me, it's like, okay, I need to get out.
Now, do you find that you're visiting with your family more now that you guys are having to stay home?
Oh.
Or is everybody still on the internet all the time and just doing their own little thing?
Yeah, in our household, I have an office in the basement, and that's where I work out of. And then my wife, Lorna, she's taken over the living room, which is right above my office as her makeshift office. And
so she's got the bigger office. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And then the two boys are upstairs because they're in school now. Luke's in Springfield Public Schools, and as of Monday morning, 8 o'clock, he's in school. And they've got lessons they got to do and different things they got to tune into with this Canvas program that they've got available on their Chromebooks and stuff. And then Asa's got all kinds of schooling he has to do because University of Tulsa is now doing all their lessons remote. So, yeah, it's interesting times in our household.
My youngest son called me the other day asking if he could stay at my house for the next few weeks because him and his mom are arguing back and forth because she's keeping to the school schedule, waking him up at 8 o'clock. He can't turn on his video games till after 3, and he has chores to do. And I said, well, that's how it would be if you were over here. It's got to be, you got to maintain that schedule. Otherwise, whenever the kids do go back to school, they're going to end up with a psychotic break of some sort. But they do need to maintain that schedule. I agree. I think so.
Well, I agree with you. You've got to have that discipline if you're working from home or going to school from home or something like that to where you do that. Because if you don't, you kind of get behind in your classes or you're not really holding yourself accountable with what you got to do for work, especially if you're self-employed. You're the boss. And
I'm a procrastinator too, so I know exactly.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And
some people need that structure of accountability where you have to have self-discipline.
Well, and then eventually this will be lifted at some point. We're hoping, and all of a sudden it'll be like, okay, what have you done for me lately? Everything's back to normal. And I don't know if that's going to be a month, 6 months, 6 years, whatever.
We just don't know.
Don't know. Going to have faith.
I have to say, I'm very proud of Americans right now. There are the few that are just complete crazies, but for the most part, people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're being more polite to each other. I see it out. Whenever I'm grocery shopping, because I don't get out unless I'm coming here or I'm grocery shopping or I'm going to my other job. So, but good job, Americans. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the way this is happening because, springtime is usually my favorite time of year.
It's so beautiful outside.
Beautiful. It's great to get out
The
and
good
get
news
some
is
fresh
you
air.
can go out and walk around. You can go out and like to the park or whatever, as long as you stay at least 6 feet away from other people.
Don't-
Cover your coughs.
Don't get on the playground equipment.
No, but I noticed a lot of fast food restaurants that have places to play in them. I'm not going to say the name. We all know what they are. Most of them are, from what I've seen, are under construction. They're taking those out.
Oh, really?
At least there's 2 that I've seen where they're taking them out completely.
Well, it's a big risk. I mean, when you think about it and stuff. But
Kids don't like washing their hands.
no, I've washed my
face it.
hands more times in the last week than I probably did in the last 2 years combined.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably wash my hands when I leave the studio. Speaking of the studio, I don't see the golden microphone. Oh, there it is. It's over there. I don't
Yeah.
know if you want to handle that or not. But
Well, I could just-
do you have a word from our sponsor?
Oh, well, our sponsor is us.
Oh, well, sweet.
So, if you enjoy this show or any of the other shows that we have going on, we have we produce like 10 to 15 shows now. I got to get an exact number. Anyways, but if you like this show, if you like being involved in a ministry and a media group that is going around serving where needed and doing the right thing and spreading the message of unity in Christ through the Holy Spirit, go online to axmediagroup.com. Check out the stuff that we have on there. There's also a pretty in-depth list of the things that we have. We have veterans programs, autism awareness programs, and different projects. And then we are a worldwide ministry getting uplifting word and entertainment and spreading the gospel worldwide. And we'd like to become partners with you. So go online to axmediagroup.com, and as you're checking everything out, you can see some of our old shows. Look to your right, and you'll see a donate button. You click on that, and there's a way you can donate one time, or if you want to become a monthly partner, you can set that up as well. So that's our sponsor for today, is you. Anyways, back to you there, Tony.
Well, thank you. That was good. What I'm looking for here is, and I may not find it quick enough, so I'll have to give up on it. I know I sent it to somebody. Oh, here we go. Okay. So one thing I did want to mention that I've added to what we're doing, both my wife and I are in financial services, insurance mainly, and so we're fortunate in the fact that people still need auto and home insurance, and you can do all of that over the phone and through the web, online and stuff like that. So, little plug for my wife, Lorna, if you ever need, help with auto insurance or home insurance, flood insurance, whatever it may be, motorcycle insurance, give her a call. She's at 417-225-2011. But, last week, it dawned on me that I also have access to telemedicine. And telemedicine, if you're not familiar with this is brilliant. It's been up and running now for years, maybe 4 or 5. The big company is called Teladoc. And if you are not familiar with the way this works, let's say you're sitting there on your couch and you're not feeling that good, and you're kind of wondering, oh my gosh, do I have the virus, or what's going on with me? Or one of your kids or something. Well, you can sign up for this, and yeah, there is a cost. I want to say it's, I think for singles it might be like $20 a month, and for families it might be like $30. I guess I could click the link here and we could find out for sure. But it's not that expensive. It's not like one of those things where it would, break somebody. But anyway, you can go to a website. I'm going to give it to you. It's called bit.ly/doc by phone. So I'll spell it. B as in boy, I, T as in Tom, period, L-Y, / doc, D as in dog, O, C as in cat, by phone. B as in boy, Y, P as in Peter, H-O-N-E. So once again, bit.ly/DOCBYPHONE. And you can go to this website and you can read through it. It's actually, when you first go to the website, you'll see that the main company is dentalplans.com. But if you look down about 20% of the page, you'll see with telemedicine, the doctor is always in and visits are always are zero as far as visits, because you've got your monthly fee that you pay. Your membership allows you to speak with the doctor within minutes of calling. No waiting for hours in emergency rooms or urgent care clinics. And what you do is you type in your zip code and it'll come up with where, this all works for you. What is telemedicine? Telemedicine, sometimes called telehealth, connects people with healthcare professionals by phone or over the internet. Using a telemedicine service, you can get a diagnosis, advice on managing the issue, and if applicable, prescriptions for certain types of non-narcotic drugs. You may also be able to get short-term refills on existing prescriptions if medically necessary. And this company has 3 plans. They've got one that includes, let me see, dentalplans.com offers 3 plans. DP Complete Care, that's going to be the dental and the medical health, and it's going to be the most expensive. Smart Health, and which has a little bit less of features or fewer features, and then Health Now. So if you're interested in just telemedicine, you would go to the Health Now part. But easy, convenient access to medical care 24/7. So it's 3 in the morning and you wake up and you've got a fever and you're feeling awful. You hopefully have this already. You phone call or you get online and you sign in, and you should have a DP's telemedicine plans connect you with U.S. board-certified doctors who live and work in the U.S. and are licensed to practice in your state. Visits are free for plan members. Reduced medical costs. The average cost of an emergency room visit is $2,168. The American Medical Association and Wellness Council of America estimate almost 75% of all doctor, urgent care, and ER visits could be handled safely and effectively with telemedicine. Get treatment right from your home, work, including prescriptions. Reduce your exposure to infectious diseases. It's estimated that 35 to 38% of the people who visit the ER are exposed to another virus while there. And then there's a lot of Q&A here. But you can go through this at your own pace, kind of get in and see what the cost would be for you or you and your family, and decide if you want to do it. If you do, sign up. If you don't, no harm, no foul. But, one of the things I like to do with this particular show is, kind of stress the fact that without your health, there's no reason really to be talking about your wealth. I mean, it's funny. I think it was Voltaire that got quoted with this, although I've heard it attributed to several other people over the years. It's funny how people compromise their health when they're young to acquire their wealth, and then once they get a little older, they're taking their wealth and trying to reacquire their health. And that is so very true. And I think that might be one of those things that with telemedicine, if you're suffering, you can sign on and get that taken care of. And though, by the way, if they see that you need more care than what they can give, trust me, they will be recommending that you get to the ER immediately. So it's not that, they're not going to cover everything. I mean, if you've got something that's significant that they can't handle and stuff, you might want to take and make a move to the ER. But it gives you that peace of mind, that comfort of being able to actually see a doctor. They can see you, and you can tell them what your symptoms are and all these kinds of things. And sometimes that's all it takes. I mean, sometimes it's like, Matt and I were talking about when I first got to the studio. It's like if you just have like a twinge in your throat or something, you start panicking. And, I've had that happen a couple times where it's like, oh, I didn't have an ache or a pain there before. I hope it's not the virus. And so, being able to get online with a doctor and go through that and find out that no, you're silly. It's nothing to do with the virus. You just watched what do they call it when you watch a bunch of shows back to back?
Binge.
You binged too long on one of these shows, and you need to get up and walk around a little bit and stuff. Anyway, as long as I'm in this part of the show, let me do this. Let me remind you that if you need anything like life insurance or health insurance, some of those kinds of supplemental things, but most important in this is the health insurance or the life insurance, excuse me. You can go to a website called insuremenow.direct.com/agent/Tony. And here again, this is a website that the whole front page, which goes on forever, is just chock full of information on what they can help with and stuff like that. But my point is that let's say you're sitting there in your living room and you're binging on some show on Netflix or one of those types of streaming services, and you're like finding out that one of your best friends now is in quarantine, and you're kind of thinking about it and stuff. The life insurance that's offered through this site is guaranteed issue. So you can go onto the site, you can plug in your birthday and whether you use tobacco or not, and a couple other things, zip code maybe, and it'll come up and it'll give you a quote on how much it would cost monthly or annually to have that kind of insurance. And then if you want to go forward, you can go ahead and sign up and get your credit card out and, get that signed up. And, there's times where just because you're quarantined doesn't mean you can't take care of these things. And, let's face it, there's some of these insurance programs that are very, very important, more so now than ever. So, if you need car or home insurance, give Lorna a call, 417-225-2011. If you need any of the other ones, feel free to give me a shout. I'm at 417-755-0700, or you can always reach me at tony@thegoldaffiliate.com. Anyway, speaking of gold, let's get back into some of the metals stuff that I have. I got my newest coin yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I went to the mailbox, and this envelope was there, which was amazing because my wife gets 10 envelopes a day. I've never seen a woman do so much online shopping, and it's just, the UPS guy and the FedEx guy and the United States Postal Service guy. It's just crazy. But I actually finally had one envelope for me, and so I opened it up because I knew I could see where it came from. This one came from Mint Builder, and Mint Builder is the one that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And so I now have a 2017 Australia Kangaroo First Release MS-70. And remember, the MS stands for Mint State. That's the highest rating you can have. And 70 is the highest and so forth. So I don't know if you can see that on the screen. But they're... Are we broadcasting?
What?
Are we broadcasting?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to see if you could see that. Here's the front. There's the back. And that's the newest addition to my coin collection.
Yeah, we're not supposed to touch back and forth. Otherwise, I would bring it in front of my camera. But
oh, no worries. Oh, I just didn't see a red light there on the camera, and I was thinking...
Oh, no, yeah, we don't have to record anymore. We just broadcast one camera to both.
And that's going to YouTube?
Yep, it's going to YouTube and then Facebook.
Oh, wow. Boy, we're state-of-the-art here at Axe Media Group.
It was a pretty simple fix. I was surprised.
Now, here's one thing. I probably shouldn't do this, but, I've got a few minutes to fill here, so I think I'll go off on this tangent. I've been doing the show now for a while, and, I've brought on a few new carriers. We've got National Gold Consultants. We've got Regal Assets. We've got American Bullion. We've got Carrot Bars. We've got 7K Metals. We've got Mint Builder, and I think Mint Builder was the most recent one I added. And each one of those I add to the portfolio of sources, because they fill a niche. And like, for example, National Gold Consultants with Ryan Long. Oh my gosh, this guy is incredible. I cannot stress to you, I could spend the whole hour and still not cover everything that Ryan's done for us as far as helping customers with their gold and silver, especially in these times. I'll give you a quick example. I have one client that had about $200,000 that he wanted to get in gold and silver, and he did want to do those pre-1933 coins. And ever since this pandemic has officially been called that, gold and silver has been in short supply. People aren't able to get to it, and if they do get to it, there's a huge premium. And so we're trying to caution people as far as if you find it, where you find it and what they're charging, all those kind of stuff. Anyway, make a long story short, last Monday, Ryan was like, this is going to be tough to fill. I don't know if I'll be able to get it done in a timely fashion. And I said, well, do your best. I trust you. I mean, you've helped me with so many other people and stuff. Wednesday afternoon last week, so a week ago today, about 4 o'clock, he calls and he says, got it done. I said, really? He goes, yep. He goes, I was able to get in touch with one of my sources, and he went through all the numbers of how many pre-1933 coins that the 200,000 was able to buy. But the neat thing is at that moment in time, the coins elsewhere was going for $24, $25 per coin, and he was able to get them for my client for $23.50, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you start doing the math on the size of the order, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of savings. And here's the best thing about Ryan. Excuse me. Anytime somebody buys gold and silver from National Gold Consultants, he makes it very clear, if and when you decide to sell, bring them back to National Gold Consultants. He wants first shot at buying the metals back, and especially if they're these pre-1933 coins, because he wants to have inventory. I mean, they're not making them anymore. They stopped making them in 1933. So that's what, 86 years ago or something. So they're valuable. And so that's the neat thing, is not only was he able to fill the order and do it at a better price than anybody else, but he was also able to stress the fact that if this particular client ever wanted to sell these coins, just go to Ryan. He'll take care of it. And by the way, there's no exit fee. There's no commission on the back end or handling fee or anything like that. I mean, if there's some shipping involved, that'll be something to deal with and everything. But anyway, I was pleased with that. So National Gold Consultants fills that niche. Karat bars is kind of fun because they actually sell gold by the gram, and not everybody does that. A lot of people, when they think of gold by the ounce. Anyway, where I'm going with this is, let me just see if I can make the, oh yeah, okay. So here's a coin I get from Mint Builder. And, it's nice enough. It's MS-70. And I open the envelope, and there's the little carrying case, and there's the coin. And that's neat and all. And there's a shipping label. But let's look at the last one I got from 7K Metals. And this one came a couple weeks ago. Comes in a FedEx envelope. And you open it up, and right away there's the bubble wrap around that coin. So that particular one was just a good old American Silver Eagle, 2019, MS-70 also. So I get the coin, and I get a little, like a baseball card describing the coin and its quality and, all this kind of stuff. 2019 PCGS MS-70 Silver Eagle. But then, oh, what's this? Oh my goodness. There's a travel savings card included. $125. Use this card to save on over 400,000 hotels, resorts, and cruises worldwide. Activate today at 7kgetaway.com. Now, the neat thing about this is, because, none of us are traveling that much right now, but this works. I've already used a couple of these. And if you don't register them on the 7K Getaway site, they're good forever. Once you register them on the site, they're good for 18 months. So, if you factor in the value, $125, that by far and away covers the cost of my Silver Eagle. So once I get to use this card, in a way, I got free silver. Then there's a little report. This is the March 2020 Vault report, which is, a nicely done piece of information in this issue. Collector's Showcase, Miss Liberty press release, associate training, announcements, and so forth. So, it's just chock full of information as far as what's going on in the gold and silver markets. And, there's some training for folks that are doing 7K metals as a career or as a sideline job, that kind of thing. So, I guess I just am leading up to saying, in my mind, I thought about it yesterday afternoon, and I think I'm going to terminate Mint Builder from our selections just because we get so much more value. And by the way, the cost was the same. So it wasn't like, 7K was $50 more or anything like that. I mean, the cost was the same. So I think that's the direction I'm going to go and stuff. And, let me just take one quick more second on the 7K. Remember, 7K has a couple of things that most companies like this don't. If you get involved with 7K metals, either as a investor or as, I want to share this with people I know, you have access to their health plan, which is called 7K Health. And, I'm glad I remembered that, because you know what? Let me see if I can remember where that is. 7K Health, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, is there we go. Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure you can tune into this if you want to just check this out, besides just listening to me. So there's a special webinar today, digging into 7K Health. Special webinar, 7K Healthcare Believers, beyond the peace of mind of owning gold and silver and having extra income through 7K is knowing that your health is covered. We believe in doing what is in our control to keep ourselves healthy, but knowing you have some protection for times of trouble can free your mind so you can focus on the challenges of getting what you want out of every day. Join us later today at 4 o'clock Mountain Time. So if it's 4 o'clock Mountain Time, that would be 3 o'clock Central?
I think so.
Okay. So I think it's 3 o'clock Central. But join us later today at 3 o'clock Central for an in-depth look into our healthcare options. You will see the different plans, what they mean, and time for questions. Please click the link below to join the webinar. So I'm going to read this link to you. I wish I could just send it to you. But HTTPS semicolon, it's the 2 dots, / and then zoom.us /J /711-526-294. So for those of you that are familiar with Zoom and you already have it on your phone or your desktop, basically all you need is the 711-526-294. If you go to Zoom, it'll say, are you joining a call? Plug in 711-526-294. For those of you that don't have Zoom, either add it to your phone or your desktop, or if you're just wanting to do this in your browser, once again, it would be zoom.us /J /711-526-294. And listen to what this 7K health plan has to offer. Now, you would have to join 7K to take advantage of it, but that's such a small price to pay to have a health plan if you don't have one now. And I'm going to need a health plan if I don't start wrapping this up, because I just looked at the clock and we're out of time. So is that the right assumption, Matt?
Yeah, we're out of time.
Okay. So for those of you who tuned in, thank you so much. If any of this information is helpful, I am pleased. Share it with your friends and family, especially on that health plan. And, be safe out there. Follow the instructions. Wash your hands. All those good things. We're saying prayers for you. And if you're looking for a ministry, please consider Acts Ministry. And I think Jim and Pam Whining, and of course Dr. Paul Collins. So signing off for now. Have a good week. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.